Hello everyone, I hope you all are doing well. Let me introduce myself. I'm Omkar Shinde, your host for this particular interview. I want to welcome you all to the 18th episode of interview series brought to you by Industry Inspire Talk. Talking about interview series, it is a series where we invite people who have interned at companies and converted that internship opportunity into a free placement offer. Our guest for today's interview is Dhaiya Gangvani. She interned with KPMG for 7 months and also got a free placement offer from them. So the interview consists of two parts. The part one involves the area's educational journey, her in-college experiences, internships, and the part two covers her KPMG story on how did she get this internship opportunity, interview experience, internship experience, work culture, and stuff like that. So make sure you watch both the parts, and I hope that this video would help you in your specific career as well. So without wasting further time, let's proceed towards the interview. Hello, Dhairya, and welcome to the 18th episode of Interview Series brought to you by Industry Inspire Talk. How are you feeling right now?
Hi Omkar, thank you so much for having me. And firstly, congratulations on completing 18 episodes of the Industry Inspire Talks. I've been following your LinkedIn page and the kind of speakers you've been calling and how you've been sharing their interview experiences and campus to corporate journey. Really appreciate the initiative and a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. And I'm also pretty much excited to talk to you. And it's been a long time. Okay, we have been connected on LinkedIn, but
Yeah,
it's a privilege to interview you and know more about your experiences. So we are going to have an amazing conversation today. So let's
sure.
just dive into the interview. So my very first question to you is, first of all, let our audience know, like, tell me something about yourself, what you do.
Sure. So I'll very briefly introduce myself. I come from an electronics and academically, graduated in May 2020, and currently I work with KPMG in India as an SAP analyst. On the side, other than that, because I'm very passionate about public speaking, I'm also a keynote speaker, and I, visit a lot of colleges to help students with career aspects. And that also pushed me to start my own initiative of Dhairya Decodes, where I'm mentoring and helping students and working professionals. And yeah, I have my own talk show and podcast as well. So that's a bit about me.
Wonderful. And I hope that the audience knows about what you do. So the next question I want to ask you is, you told me you graduated from VIT Vellore, okay, and you did electronics and telecommunication engineering. So I want to ask you, how was your college like?
Okay. Well, I think that I cannot really put it into words because more than just anything else, I wouldn't even call it a journey. It's been an experience which every individual goes through, irrespective of the college you are in. Because the college years, you call it like a golden period, right? And the truth is that you don't actually realize the value of it while you are in it. But only when you are away from it and you actually come into the new world do you realize that those years were far better, right? So I know I've obviously learned a lot through those years, made a couple of friends, had a great network, worked in so many clubs and chapters, had some amazing seniors, learned a lot through the college, gotten opportunities with respect to placements, and so much more. But I think the major thing that I've learned at VIT specifically is because people from all backgrounds, like literally all backgrounds, come there all across the globe, not just from India. And because I was away from my parents for the first time, it actually taught me how to handle different situations and deal with things on your own, right? Because when you're left out in the open and you've got people with different opinions and different perspectives and you live with them, it's altogether a very different ball game. So understanding how to interact with people and understand other people's point of view, and then obviously also network with them and try to, if not stand out, but also at least try to be amongst the best, because there's a huge crowd which comes into VIT every year, approximately 8,000 to 10,000 students, and it's honestly a struggle to find a place or make a mark out of so many students. So yeah, those were some of the things, and I do miss the journey. Back then we used to obviously crib a lot because of the attendance, the strict rules and everything, but I think any one of us would actually given any amount of money or anything to go back to those years as opposed to what we are doing now.
Wonderful, and thanks for sharing that experience. So the next question I want to ask you is, describe your passion for entrepreneurship and startups.
So my passion as such and my inclination towards entrepreneurship and startups was obviously never something which was intentional. Rather, I would say, even if you go back and see some of my content or understand me as a person, even last year, let's say in June, there was no bleak, relation to entrepreneurship or startups. It was only during the end of July last year, when obviously I knew what entrepreneurship is, what a startup doing, etc. But myself indulging into something like that and understanding how the ecosystem works and what it is like to have your own small business or your own initiative, etc., only came in from the fact that I understood that if I want to make an impact and bridge a gap of something which is missing in the industry, I think starting up or starting with an initiative or being an entrepreneur is the best way to do so. And that's how that journey started. When I started Dhairya Decodes, not as a proper like full-fledged thing, I just wanted to help students and I started mentoring them. Then working professionals also came on. Then I understood that there's a demand. Obviously, to meet the supply, I also need to understand what is the exact gap that I want to bridge and who's going to be my target audience. And then my entrepreneurial journey started. Team building, understanding the need of the market, doing a product market fit, doing variations, etc. That's how it all began. So I think because it came very naturally, I have never been able to sink in the fact that I'm doing something which comes in the entrepreneurial category. I've never considered myself that way, to be honest. Only when people ask me such questions nowadays, do I actually talk about it.
Yeah, so you are still an entrepreneur right now. You are running Dhairya Decodes. So it's what I feel is you started with coaching and mentoring initially, but that experience helped you to discover this idea of starting Dhairya Decodes, which can help a lot of other students. And it's a wonderful initiative started by you. And thanks for sharing your thoughts on this question. So the next question I want to ask you is, what is the importance of personal branding in your career?
Okay, I think personal branding for me has been one of the major pivotal points in my journey. And I would rather specify and add one word, personal branding via LinkedIn. So 2 words. Because LinkedIn was the platform where I started my journey of unintentionally, again, personally branding myself. Because when I started out, I didn't know the concept of personal branding in towards July end again. Initially, then over a period of time, understanding from people, meeting a lot of my seniors, professionals, I understood that intentionally or unintentionally, what I was doing on LinkedIn was helping me build a personal brand. So what I feel is, for me, generally, I think nowadays students have started understanding the importance of it very early on. I already had a job, everything was settled. I graduated out of college, and after that, I started on my journey of personal branding. Because I graduated in May, and I started with this towards August, right? So one major key takeaway that I took from this was that only when you're a student or when you're looking for a job or an internship, personal branding is not necessary only during these phases. Personal branding is an ever-evolving process, and it is something which every individual should strive to achieve, irrespective of the phase you are in. Whether you're in your 12th grade, you're a student, you're providing services, you're a working professional and an entrepreneur. Personal branding has become I think something which everyone needs to do. Because no one's going to come and do it for yourself. There's a reason it's called personal branding. You have to do it for yourself, right? So I feel everything and anything that I've done other than my full-time job, whether it is being a keynote speaker, whether it is starting my talk show, whether it is starting Dhairya Decodes, whether it's building a team, everything apart from that has been stemmed down to the fact that I started with my personal branding on LinkedIn. So that's the role that it has played. It's that massive.
Amazing. And my next question is related to that. Okay, so now you talked about personal branding. So let's talk more about LinkedIn. Okay, so my question is, how did LinkedIn help you in achieving your career goals?
Right, I think that's a very valid question. So to begin with, again, I didn't intend to come on LinkedIn, but during the lockdown, there was a hype around LinkedIn that the platform is a must to join. It was always there, but I believe it exponentially grew towards the lockdown. 100% people started giving more weightage to LinkedIn as a platform, as opposed to Instagram or a Twitter or anything else. Because everyone was like, it's a great platform, you get good organic reach, etc., etc. That time, these words were jargons for me. And all I understood was, I have a job, I've graduated, what will the platform give me? And anyone thinks so, trust me. Any student will only be attracted to the platform because of the fact that LinkedIn can give me an internship or can give me a job, but there's so much more to the platform. And one myth which was busted for me was that LinkedIn is not a platform which will give you a job or an internship. It is not Naukri.com or IIMjobs.com. It's a platform which you can leverage to get a job or an internship if you have a good profile and if you're active, right? So then when people told me that it's okay if you have a job, You can actually use it to build a personal brand. You can build a network. You can also actually engage with people all across the globe on the platform, start creating content. So these things attracted me. I started on my journey of creating content randomly one night with a quote. And then slowly and steadily, I understood that my audience was primarily students who were seeking some professional guidance in terms of career growth and professional development. So I started putting out content related to resume building, related to LinkedIn, related to job interview preparation, all of that, and my journey as an SAP analyst, related to everything else. And then I started seeing that the people actually wanted to know more about my journey, and they liked my content, is what I understood. Now, I know that you shouldn't concentrate on numbers, but that is what the numbers told me, that a lot of people wanted to listen to what I was saying. That's how the journey started. And I think content creation on LinkedIn has been 90% of what has contributed to the different opportunities, because everyone who I got connected to somewhere or the other came through my content, via the comments, via the likes, via the views. That's how I got connected to them. So yeah, that's how the journey has been on LinkedIn.
Yeah, wonderful, and thanks for giving kind of a gist of how LinkedIn is. But to be honest, I definitely agree with you. LinkedIn is far more than finding a job. Okay, it's far more like it helps you create your brand. Okay, so initially when I started with my LinkedIn journey, okay, so initially I started like all of us do, okay, for getting a job. But initially when I discovered the true kind of what are the benefits of LinkedIn and how can you leverage it in order to build your personal brand or maybe a business you are running. Okay, so there are a lot of benefits which you get after you joining LinkedIn as well. Okay, so you get to meet a lot of new people. You get to meet your audience as well. As you said, you made just a random post, but that post gave you an idea that you were made to help people into personal branding, into coaching and mentoring. Okay, so that gave you an idea, and that kickstarted your journey towards founding Dhairya Decodes and also providing a lot of other services by managing your kind of corporate, working with KPMG as well, and the multitasking ability which you have. It's a good thing. I think everyone should have it. Okay, and thanks for sharing your experience. So the next question is, you told me you've done 20 plus internships. So it's not feasible for me to discuss each internship here. So my question is, what were the skills you developed after completing those 20 plus internships, and how did it help you?
That's also a very valid question. So again, I would not emphasize on the number. The intention, I always say this, behind doing internships was not to have a number or a marquee, okay, I've done 20 internships. But yes, it was to have a diverse experience. My intention was I should explore and try out different things so that people can know that I'm not just a person who can be reached out for A. There is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, which I can do. Okay, that was my intention behind doing internship. Now, when I talk about the skills that I gained, everything that you see, whether it's the confidence, which people say that I have a ability to talk to people very confidently, whether it is my communication skills, whether it is the ability to sell things, my sales skills, my marketing skills. Today, when I've obviously built an initiative like Dhairya Decodes, team building, time management, everything else around, even my technical skills per se as an analyst, because I also did 2 internships as a business analyst. So understanding the importance of problem solving, building that logical reasoning abilities, understanding your client's perspective, their problems, customer acquisition, because I've done internships in all of these fields, operations, all of that is what I gained in these 20 internships. Creative content writing as well, because I did a content writing internship as well. So today, as in when I find the time, I take freelance content writing gigs as well. That is possible because of the fact that I did content writing internships in my second and third year. So today I've built on some portfolio, and I've worked with not many because I don't get the time, but a decent number of clients in these past 2.5 years. So I think in general, almost everything and anything that you see in my personality and what I do has come from those 20 internships, because those internships helped me stand apart even from the crowd when I applied for my placements. It also helps me till date today, because I didn't just work with Indian startups or Indian companies. I worked across different geographies. I worked with US-based startups. I worked with startups based in the United Arab Emirates also. So it gave me a wide global exposure as well. So wow. Yeah, that's pretty much about it.
That's so inspiring. Okay, so I haven't met a person who have done such a lot of internships, and it's what I feel. Yeah, your internship helped you like grow yourself. It's what I feel, and each and every internship which you did helped you in some way or the other in your journey, in your entrepreneurial journey, or maybe any journey, any interview. Okay, so I personally agree with this thing. Is doing internship. One should do internship as a student because it gives you the ground reality as well as it gives you that hands-on experience as well along with the academics. And thanks for giving that advice and kudos to you for doing all such internships. Okay, so it's difficult to manage things, but still you did it because you had that perseverance and the dedication to learn more and to teach the students. So the next question I want to ask you is, it's kind of a life-oriented question. Okay, it's nothing to do with your kind of industry experience. So my question is like, how do you handle rejection? And tell us about your mindset strategy.
Okay, I love that question because rejection has been a major part of my life, and I feel I'm not just saying it for the sake of it. Because now that I'm an entrepreneur, I face rejection every day. Okay, so I've gotten even more used to it with every passing day. Now, see, a lot of people will tell you that rejection is something which comes in handy with success. All right, but my thoughts or opinion on rejection are that rejection is something which actually teaches you what success is. Okay, because until and unless someone doesn't tell me that, okay, this is not okay or you are not fit for this, I will never know what am I actually fit for. Okay, if a recruiter in a job interview had not rejected me and told me that you are not fit for this job role, I would have never realized that, okay, if not this, what is the other thing that I can do? So what I feel is rejection only gives you different opportunities to explore. It tells you that this is not what is meant for you. Try out different options. That is how I look at rejection now. As a student, I obviously it used to affect me a lot. There is nothing to hide, or shy away from. So every time, firstly, I didn't sit for a lot of campus interviews because I'd already restricted myself to only management companies, and I come from an engineering background. So 800 plus companies coming for tech roles, 25 coming for management roles. So you're sitting just for 25 companies. All the other students are sitting for 1,000 companies. Understand the odds of getting selected. So I already had that mindset that my chances of failing are way more than anybody else. I already knew it. But what I did know is that if I try also to do something in the CSE space or in the tech space and become like a programmer, whatever, via whatever means, and I make it through a company, I wouldn't be able to sustain in that industry, even though I may make it now. So my mind was very clear. It's okay if I face rejections and I've got only some 20, targets to hit, which is very less. But if I hit the right chord, then everything else will fall into place. So that's what I did. And I faced rejections, obviously. There were 3 companies that I made it through out of 25. Then I chose KPMG as the best one. Now, what happens is, even in rejections, the internships, I've done 20, but you don't know, before getting the first one, I faced 50 rejections, right? It took me 50 rejections to get my first internship, right? Because I was no one. I had no experience, a second-year student from an electronics background, trying to apply to management internships with no MBA also. Who is going to hire me? Why should they hire me? Why should they hire me, right? So to answer that question, that why you should hire me and what I have, it took me 50 rejections and learnings and upskilling myself to tell them that this is why you should hire me, even though I'm in second year and I come with no experience. And today what I understand from rejection is just one thing to end it is that, like even today, if I'm, let's say, my team or I am reaching out to people to sign up for a workshop, because we're not a big brand, we're just getting started, we need to let people know this is a workshop, this is what we have to offer, this is the value you have. Word of mouth and testimonials obviously play a huge role. But other than that, you have to keep trying to reach out to more people. Now, even today, there are people who say no to me, who say they're not interested and they reject me, and it's okay. Initially, I used to feel very bad. I'm like, how can they say this? Why is this happening to me? I'm providing so much value. It's affordable as well. But what happens is, with time, you realize that who will see the value will actually take it up. And if they don't see it, it's totally okay. And if someone does not say no to you, you wouldn't be as much happy as you would be when someone says yes to you. So you need to experience it. I feel rejection and success as well, or acceptance, are just something which you need to experience in order to understand the counterpart. Okay, so I would say even success is very important, because unless you've not seen the success again, then rejection becomes a little difficult to understand. So that's how I've been dealing with it. But I would just say you have to give it time. and you become more. You don't develop a thick skin, but you just get used to understanding that it's a part and parcel, and it will keep going on.
Wonderful answer. And I also agree with you. The rejection thing, as you said, you had 50 rejections. It's okay. Right now, if you see yourself, you'll tell to yourself, all of it was worth it. Okay, all of it was worth it because those rejections gave you the motivation to like create a brand which you are right now. Am I right or not? Do you agree with me or not?
I agree. It gives you a different push and a boost.
Yeah. So it's the motivation you get after rejection. And I also say this, I've also been rejected not 50 times, but I applied to less opportunities. Okay, but rejection, as you said, is a part and parcel of life, and everyone must face rejection. That's what I feel, because it would give like if you like are going to succeed the whole life journey which you have covered. Okay, there is no like the thrill in living it. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I feel. Rejection
Yeah.
should be there in your life. It's what I feel. Then and only then you will have that up and downs. You will go through it, and then you have a successful story when you can say like despite facing all these rejections, I am what I am today. Okay, and that's
Right.
who you are. And thank you for sharing. So that the next question is about Dhairya Decode. So my question is, when did you start Dhairya Decode and why?
So, not many people know this because I don't talk that much about it. But yes, I like some platforms have spoken about this act. So, Dhairya Decodes was started in September, mid-September officially, and the trigger point of starting it was that at that time the pandemic had just hit in, right? And what was happening was students were getting adapted to the online medium. The scarcity, the job demand and supply market was changing. A lot of people were facing a lot of difficulties. The economy has disrupted everything. What I saw was a lot of people needed a lot of help and guidance. So I started giving it out. I didn't start out like a full-fledged with a website, with a service, and it did not start as a business, okay? It started out just with the motive, and even today, if I find someone really genuinely needs my help, cannot even afford the most affordable prices we have kept, and I have the time, I will give it to you for free. Because at the end of the day, my motive is to help you. The reason that there is a substantial amount put into it today is because I take out my time out of a very busy schedule as a working professional, and I have a team also who obviously get paid as well. So some amount of revenue needs to come in. So how it started was I saw a lot of people texting me on LinkedIn. So it used to be flooded with messages, how to prepare for interviews, I want to improvise on my communication skills, my LinkedIn profile is not up to the mark, I want to learn resume building. So I just made a basic Google form. I used to tell them, you please fill it, choose a slot which is mutually feasible for both of us, and I used to sit with them for 15 or 20 minutes or half an hour or 1 hour also at times and guide them. That is how it started, and this started in around July and August. For 1.5 months or 2 months, I just kept doing it and helping as many people as possible. September, I decided it was not feasible for me to handle so many queries because my job had also started towards August end. And then I realized it was not that easy. Those 1.5 months I was free, so I could do it. So then I launched my website. Then I, got a team onboarded, and then I started providing it as professional services separately for students and separately for working professionals. And that's how it started. Now, the initial month in September, again, I was alone. I did not have a team. So again, that was a very difficult phase to handle your full-time job and cater to people one-on-one individually, because that time we didn't do workshops as well. So giving time to one person, giving time to 10 people was equivalent to 10 hours of my time. But then we decided it's not scalable and sustainable. So we continue taking individual mentoring sessions, but I do very limited ones as per my schedule. From November, we started doing workshops, monthly workshops, and then I got a team onboarded. And ever since then, I think it's been a good journey. We've been growing steadily. I don't want to take anything on a very fast or a rapid basis. I feel the slower and steadier you move, the better is the growth. I don't want it to be exponential. So yeah, that's how it's been.
Yeah, I agree with you. And you said you started Dhairya Decodes in September. We started Industry Inspire Talks in August. So it's kind of, yeah. So it's okay. And I started this thing to help students as well as you are doing it. Okay, it's an initiative as well. It's a community initiative as Dhairya Decodes. Okay, and thanks for sharing that journey of how you started Dhairya Decodes. And the name, it's very nice. Okay, so what I am saying is, it involves your name as well, and you are decoding all like the personal branding and also the mentoring which you provide for students. So it's a perfect thing.
Actually, let me give this. I've never said this anywhere else before, but because I love the name so much, and now it's become like the thing I'm known for. This name was given by my younger sister. So she's my real sister, and she decided when I was thinking of a hashtag for my LinkedIn post, follow my hashtag. So she gave the hashtag Area Decode, right? And then when I was looking for a name for my initiative also, she told me, why don't you use your hashtag itself, right? It already has your name, and this is what you're trying to decode things, so let's keep it Area Decode only. So that's how it started.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, so the next question I want to ask you is, what advice do you want to give to students who are new to LinkedIn and wants to grow their LinkedIn profile?
So I'll just very briefly summarize it into 3 steps. Number 1 is to understand that why do you want to join LinkedIn? It's very important. Your why or your reason behind joining LinkedIn will determine everything else or the journey ahead. Number 2 is, once you've joined LinkedIn, make sure that you have an optimized profile. Every section in your profile, whether it's your banner, whether it's your display picture, your headline, your skills, your about section, everything should be optimized according to the field in which you want to build a career. Let's say I want to become a software development engineer. My profile should depict this is what I want to do. I am a data science enthusiast. It should depict it. You're an entrepreneurial enthusiast. That is what it should depict, right? Because if it does not show any end user or someone random coming on, I take my phone, I search for someone's profile, let's say it's for Omkar's profile, and just going through his profile in 5 seconds, or let's say maximum 10 seconds, if I don't understand what does Omkar do, right, and what he brings to the table, then the purpose of your LinkedIn profile is not being served. Okay, so make sure that answer is being delivered to the people who come on your profile. And number 3 is create content. And by creating content, please, this misconception that I need to have a lot of knowledge, I need to be an industry professional, I need to have a job, or I need to have a business, let's not get all of that into picture. The only thing you need to have is some basic knowledge of whatever you want to talk about. As a BBA student, if something around business or some basic concepts which you've studied in your academics, I'm sure some subjects you would be very confident in. Start talking about it. Share your knowledge. Impart it to the other students who are also pursuing BBA. Start actually sharing that so that other people from your networking come and start following you. Communities are built on the fact of value addition. As long as you're adding value and you're sharing your knowledge in whatever domain you know it, you will excel. So do these 3 things for sure.
Wonderful, and thanks for sharing those 3 steps on how to grow your LinkedIn profile. And it's what I feel all the beginner students should follow what you said. Okay, and thanks for sharing that. So the next question I want to ask you is, as you said, you delivered 75 plus talks. Okay, so I want to ask you, like, how to become an effective public speaker in college.
So again, public speaking has been something which has been a very major part of my life because I would say I was always a decent communicator is what I felt. But again, when I joined BIT, and I told you, because there were so many students, even the most confident person will feel intimidated. Trust me. And I was amongst those people who had a extroverted, confident personality. But when I saw so many people with amazing communication skills, with an amazing background, and the way they carried themselves, they spoke personality-wise, I felt a little insecure, right? And that's when I realized that it's not going to be so easy to stand out from the crowd as it was in college or it was in school. Because there were 60 people, 100 people, now I have 10,000 people, and I'm going to get lost in the crowd. And then, there were times where, because I've not been in touch with public speaking for a long time, so not many people know this, but even right from my 3rd standard, I used to do a lot of stage shows in my colleges. So, those plays which used to have annual days in your schools, I was always the lead character for it. So I was very ready to be on stage. I used to learn like 50 pages scripts in Hindi even in my 5th standard. So that was there in me. But 5th standard to 1st year had been a very long gap, right? And coming on stage and speaking in front of people, I'd lost touch. So what happened was, I saw this society or this organization called Toastmasters International, which I'm sure you would have heard of. A lot of people know about it. And I understood, right? And then many people told me it will help you build on your confidence, further improvise on your communication skills. And in my 2nd semester, that is in my 1st year only, 2nd semester, the openings, the recruitment started for it. All you had to do was prepare a 4 to 6 minutes introduction of yourself and give it in front of the board members, and they would select you based on that. I thought it's pretty simple. Like, I can obviously speak about myself, But unfortunately, after preparing the script also, when I went in front of these 20-25 seniors who were to judge me, around 2 to 3 minutes, I think I spoke fluently, or maybe 1 or 2 minutes, because I'd memorized things and it was all fresh, but I went blank after that for about 30 or 45 seconds. That's when I realized that I actually need this organization to help me, because I've gone blank. Now, they were very, generous that they did not judge me based on me forgetting. They told me to continue. So I took like a 45 seconds, 1 minute pause, and then I began, completed my speech. And luckily, I got selected. So Toastmasters International, being a part of that organization for 2.5 years of my engineering, every week on Wednesdays, the club I was a part of, every Wednesday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. we used to have sessions, 7 to 8 p.m. right? Now, you were given a new topic, you had to come up and speak on it. There were certain objectives based on which they used to judge you, mark you. My confidence started increasing every week, because new people used to come and watch your, talk. Everyone from the college was open to attend it. So speaking in front of these different people will obviously would boost anyone's confidence over 2.5 years, right? And then we used to have extempore public speaking competitions also, where you are called on the stage, given a topic, given not even 10 seconds to think about it, and to start speaking. So these experiences, then I took part in the technical fest and the cultural fest. I was a part of the organizing team. So talking with people, trying to get sponsorships, networking with different people. I was a part of 5 clubs and chapters and societies in my college. All of that helped me in my public speaking journey, right? So as a student, I would say, expose yourself to certain clubs or chapters, whether it's a debate society or a public speaking chapter like Toastmasters International. That will help you enhance on your skills. Now, to leverage what you've learned from there, try and apply for being a host or an anchor for a particular show or event happening by some club or chapter in your college. Ask them that you would like to, host this event, etc. Be a part of the cultural team, or try and anchor even your college fest, etc. Start taking presentations in front of your college mates when any professor asks you to present it. Take those opportunities, because the mistakes that you will make in the classrooms and in front of your college people will teach you how to become more confident and speak in front of a huge audience in the future, right? So I think that is what you should do.
Wonderful, and I can see that energy like right now. You are speaking with such fluency, and you are connecting all the dots. And the day you started with public speaking, I know, like I also I relate to you with this. Okay, I also used to do dramas in my school, but initially that gap which has been created, in the school, I didn't speak much. Okay, and I had the stage fear which developed over time. Okay, and the only thing, as you said, the experiences you get. Okay, I got a lot of experiences, and the second thing is the practice. Okay, how more you practice, how more you point out your mistakes. Okay, say I don't have a good eye contact. Okay, I have an eye contact which is I look down. I am scared when I confront the audience. Okay, so students have a lot of fears. Okay, it's what I feel. But the only the mantra to overcome such fears is the 3P strategy, which I follow, is practice, patience, and perseverance. Is what I feel has worked out for me as well. Okay, and so thanks for giving all those tips. I hope that these tips would definitely help the students who are beginners and who wants to become an effective public speaker in college. Okay, and thank you for sharing that. So the next question I want to ask you is, you told me you were into creative. You are still into content writing. So my question is, what are some tips you want to give to students to be great in content writing?
Okay. So see, the first thing is to understand that do you really enjoy content writing, because not everyone needs to do content writing, right? If everyone starts doing something that someone else is doing, then we'll not be unique. So first, really understand that do you actually enjoy the process of ideating, putting your thoughts down on paper, or even on your phone, on your laptop, whatever it is. Do you basically write? Do you basically like putting your thoughts into words? Basically, right? If you like that, then content writing, content creation is a space you should explore. Second step is to understand that what is it that you like writing or ideating or creating content around? What is the domain? Are you passionate about marketing? Are you passionate about startups? Are you passionate about maybe finance? Or are you passionate about consulting, sales, whatever it is? So identify that what do you like talking about? In general, don't put a lot of pressure on it. Let's say I have a conversation with Omkar just as a friend, and we have a conversation, and without thinking much and very effortlessly and seamlessly, the topics that I'm able to talk about will generally be the things that you're passionate about or you like doing, right? Where you don't have to put a lot of thought or pressure on your head, and it comes in naturally. So identify those areas, because then the thoughts again will come in a flow to you as a content writer also. So let's say if you ask me, I can do technical content writing, I've done it, but the thoughts don't come in very naturally or flow in. I have to do some amount of basic research and push myself to write, to be honest. But then if you tell me to write about lifestyle, to write about fashion, to write about anything managerial, entrepreneurial, or travel related, etc., that will come in very naturally to me. So I've done more of that very easily. Or let's say there's a brand or a startup who is into the digital marketing space or the freelance space, and they want their website content to be written. That is something I'll be very passionate about. So that will come in naturally to me. So identify those domains. And number 3 is do good research work. That's very important. A major part which content writers are neglected for is that you just don't start writing, or you're not just known for the words that you put in there, the way it is framed and the way it looks and how well the copy sells. No. The research which is done behind it has put those words and framed it in that way. If you're not a good researcher and you don't understand from where to pick up what thoughts, obviously you're not going to plagiarize it, but at the end of the day, everyone gets ideas from somewhere or the other. The way you frame it is unique, but we all have to do our research to write. So you have to be very good at research, and if that is something you like doing, looking up various blogs, various LinkedIn posts, different Google sources, YouTube channels, podcasts, etc., and coming together with the best possible article through various resources and making it unique, then get into content writing.
Yeah, great. And like all the tips which you shared, I hope that it helps a lot of other students. Okay, and the next question I want to ask you is, like you told me, you are from an UXCC background, but you chose management consulting because you are very much interested, very much passionate about it. So my question is, why did you switch from engineering to management consulting?
Okay, that's a very valid question. So, see, it's very simple. I was in my second year. I wanted to, I was thinking that what will I do? Because from third year itself, companies for internships start coming in my college. So I thought, okay, I'm faring very well, getting good grades in electronics, but do I really want to do this as a full-time job? Like, do I want to be a graduate engineer trainee or an electronics and communication engineer in a particular core company and make some chips or work on hardware? The answer that I got was no, right? From within, it was just a no. Coding I anyways did not want to do. I didn't want to get into the technical stream. That's the reason I chose AC in the first place. So both of these major things which people would do, they will either go with their core domain in which they're doing engineering, or follow the rat race and do a software development job. And I didn't want to do both. So then I thought that what else can I do, right? Because I had to do something. I was doing an engineering degree. Then I thought that why not explore management? Now again, a lot of people told me you should do an MBA first and then try out these management fields, because that's the ideal route to go about it. Do engineering, do MBA, then get into these big four firms. But I knew that these big four come to our college campus, but very few of them, right? Very limited companies. But if I build my profile in such a way, I think I can have good chances, is what I thought. That's when I started doing these multiple internships to build my experience, etc. And that's how the journey started. And then that's when I decided, okay, after doing 20 internships, I figured down that I'm good with problem solving, understanding client problems, I'm good with communication, and I'm also good with understanding basic data and dealing with people and working in teams. And consulting is a lot related to that. And that's when I chose that, okay, management consulting is something that I can do. So that's how it all started.
Great. So I think that a lot of people switch not because like they are not interested in doing that thing and they are passionate about some role or maybe some area they want to explore. Okay, and in your case you did the same. Okay, even though you were from EXTC, but you had that passion, okay, for entrepreneurship and also for management consulting, and that paved your way from like graduating as an engineer, but initially graduating with all the degree and everything, but going into management is what you always thought of, okay? Because a lot of people, I also don't love coding, okay? I'm also thinking of taking a management degree and going into some management firms, okay? And I think that the student would also be helped, and also your experience which you shared here on this platform would also help me as well as our audience as well. Okay, so thank you for sharing. So the next question I want to ask you is, it's about Dhairya Decodes, okay? So I want to ask you, how does Dhairya Decodes help in boosting a student's professional growth?
So Dhairya Decodes is basically an initiative where we are helping. We started with students, but then working professionals also started coming and wanting to avail my services. So now we cater to students and working professionals with any and every aspect or element of career growth and professional development. How we do that is via obviously our individual mentoring sessions around career guidance, around public speaking and communication skills, around job interview preparation, around LinkedIn profile building, how to land internships, around resume building, and everything else that you can think of. So any way in which we can help you and guide you via my individual mentoring sessions, which I take personally for 45 minutes, that is one area. The second way that we have started helping you out is obviously by creating daily content on my Instagram page of the Area Decodes. There is value adding content shared every day in the form of reels or posts there. We keep coming up with different quizzes, with different polls, Instagram lives also with a lot of influencers and content creators who are doing amazing in their respective sphere, so that my audience can learn from them also, right? I try to bring in, it's not just in terms of the number of followers or the bigger the names are, they've truly done something valuable, right? And they're doing something unconventional, so I call them up. My career development talk show also is a part of the Area Decodes, wherein I've called about 57 speakers from all across the globe from different career domains, right? So either they have been a travel blogger, or very recently I called a meme marketer. Then I called a French language instructor, an NLP practitioner, all of these unconventional domains which we are not told about in college. Engineering, doctorate, lawyers, way beyond that. So I cover all of those spheres. And then our workshops, obviously. That is a major part. So every month we come up with 1 or 2 unique workshops, 1 minimum and 2 maximum, to actually cater to the audience. So till now we have done a 3 days LinkedIn Live workshop, which is a best-selling one. We've completed about 4 batches. We've done 3 batches of a resume building workshop. We've done 2 batches of a public speaking workshop. And this month we have come up with a 2-day job interview preparation bootcamp. So that is also something which we are helping the students with.
So from this, what I see is like in each of these workshops or these sessions which you're conducting, as you said, value addition is the key point in all these things. Okay, why should students pay you for availing your services? Because you are providing some value addition or something that could help them, or maybe you are providing it in such a way or covering it in such a way where the student can interactively learn as well and upskill themselves. Okay, the way you are providing the services, because there are a lot of people who are providing professional training and services, but what is the different thing which you are providing? Okay, and that's the reason why that separates you from other people, and that's the reason why a lot of students are enrolling in your workshops and getting benefited out of it. Okay, and thank you for sharing that, Dhairya. So the next question I want to ask you is, what key skills to focus on in order to stand out from other students in the class?
So again, I'll shortly answer this. First thing is that you need to make sure that you're not just restricting yourself to the academic curriculum you've been put into. Whether you're doing CSE engineering, you're doing BBA, you're doing a tourism degree, whatever it is. Don't just stick to your curriculum that I will only do things in the tourism field, or only in the business field, or only in the computer science field. Explore other domains, because that helps you show your diversity, that helps you stand out. Number 2 is communication skills. As underrated as they may be, they are the one thing which helps you stand apart from the crowd. And by communication skills, I don't mean English speaking skills. Communication skills, that is command over any one language very well. If you're able to convey me your message in any one language amazingly well, and I am just awestruck by the way you speak, you're a good communicator. That is what matters. You're doing it in Malayalam, you're doing it in Hindi or Japanese. That doesn't matter. But you need to be able to leave that impact when you speak. So that's very important. And the third thing which I would say is, build a good balance between your technical and management skills. Right? So have a good balance between your life skills, basically, whether it's time management, teamwork, interpersonal skills, and your technical skills which apply to your domain. If you're a digital marketer, digital marketing, SEO, SEM, etc. If you are into the data science space, have a good hands-on knowledge on any data visualization tool, any one statistical programming language. If you're into management consulting, have good problem-solving skills, have good presentation skills, have a good hold over Excel, PPT, you need to know that. So that is what I mean. Have a balance between your technical and managerial skills.
Wonderful, and thank you for sharing that. Okay, so the next question I want to ask you is, describe the placement opportunities at VIT Vellore. So, tell me something about your EXTC faculty, and also, is it a good place to study engineering?
Okay, So, well, see, that's a very, I don't know, a very difficult question to answer. It surely is an amazing place to study because the kind of exposure, as I told you, you get, the kind of teachers you get to meet, we've got some of the most amazing experienced professors who are going to be teaching you there. As long as you're passionate about the stream you're working in, you'll get enough opportunities and support. There are obviously challenges and different things in every college. But overall, I would say that it is surely one of the best and the most premium institutions you can study from for engineering, even after weighing all the pros and cons. Now, the kind of opportunities they give you in placements, VIT is known for its 100% placement rate. See, obviously the category or the kind of company you get placed in cannot be guaranteed by them. But one thing I have seen is, you wouldn't believe it, people from my batch, that is the 2020 batch, are still getting placed. Can you imagine? They are still getting placed. It's been over 1.5 years. One batch after me has already passed out, and still people from my year are being given opportunities. So one thing I can say is, I used to crib about this before, but irrespective of the branch you are in, I don't think any college can do more than that. That even 2 years after your graduation, you're getting opportunities to apply to companies like a Deloitte or the big names. So even now we keep getting mails, because there may be people who want to switch because of the pandemic. Some offers also got revoked, so they are making sure you get opportunities. So trust me, it's not just for the sake that you hear it. There are numerous companies and numerous startups which come into the into the campus, and that's one of the major reasons why people chose VIT over other private institutions, and it's number one in private institutions, because at the end of the day, the 4 years will break down to the placement you take. That is what everyone equates it to, and in terms of placement, they nail it. They'll try and bring every company possible for you to explore. So you'll get a lot of opportunities. How you avail them is up to you. So in terms of exposure, in terms of clubs and chapters, we've got over, I don't know, some 250 plus sub-chapter societies.
Wow.
Our cultural fest also, which is Rivera, is one of the most famous ones in India. You will get all the exposure that you need. You are supposed to get hold of the opportunities. I've done immense things, as I told you, in VIT. So it is surely one of the best places you can be in.
Wonderful, and thanks for sharing your experience. Okay, I hope that a lot of students would get a clarity on this. Okay, and yeah, till now it's been very much inspiring. I got to learn a lot of new things about you, and I am immensely loving this conversation with you. Okay, I think a lot of value addition would be there in the part one. So here we end with the part one, and like talking about your personal experience, your academic experience, and also your extracurriculars. Okay, and some advices you gave. So we'll go to the part two, where I talk to you about your KPMG experience, your industry experience, wherein we'll get an industry insight of, and also know about your experience working with KPMG. So let's start with the part two. So this is the end of part one. If you enjoyed watching part one, felt inspired, learned new things, make sure to hit the like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more such episodes with people from the industry who are there to inspire you. Giving you an update about part two, it will be available on our channel by Thursday. So make sure to check that out and keep supporting us like this. Thank you for watching, everyone. And until then, keep learning, keep inspiring, keep growing, and all the very best for your industry career ahead.